Miraidon EX is the new flagship Pokemon printed in the new Scarlet and Violet EX set, but despite having promising results in smaller Japanese tournaments, it's yet to have its breakout performance, despite having easily one of the strongest search abilities ever printed on a basic Pokemon. Today we're going to be discussing a new, speedy and disruptive lightning deck, all made possible thanks to the new Miraidon EX. I'm going to provide a starting point deck list which I believe fixes some of the glaring issues of the current builds I've been seeing, and I'll cover how the deck fares against the other top contenders in the post-rotation format. Let's get started. So Miraidon EX is a basic lightning type Pokemon with 220 hit points. Not too bad, especially when remembering that it's an EX Pokemon rather than a V, so Pokemon like Arceus and Goodra can't simply add Choice Belt to get a one-hit KO here. Miraidon EX's ability is its key selling point. Tandem unit states, once during your turn, you may search your deck for up to 2 basic lightning type Pokemon and put them directly onto your bench. With this ability to fall back on, our deck can completely set up, all via one ball search card, seeing as just one Miraidon can instantly leapfrog us into grabbing 2 of its buddies as backup. Also, if we really want to go as wide as possible, we can use our first tandem unit for another Miraidon EX, and use the second one's ability for 2 more Pokemon afterwards. That means that in the majority of games, if nothing else, we're getting plenty of Pokemon on the board to help us get set up. And at the same time, we're also thinning cards from our deck, making draw cards even more useful throughout the game. Miraidon's uses don't end here though, as we also have a very decent attack. Miraidon deals 220 damage for 3 energy, a solid number at KOing other basic multi-prize Pokemon, and can be ramped even further with the help of our first partner Pokemon, Regieleki VMAX. Now, this attack cost is a little steep, so let's first touch on another key component of our deck, Electricity Generator. A card which gives the deck immense flexibility and pop-off potential, helping make Miraidon on paper one of the fastest decks in format. Electricity Generator allows us to look at the top 5 cards of our deck and attach up to 2 lightning energy to your benched lightning Pokemon in any way that you like. This is a type-specific upgrade on what was one of the strongest items of the XY era, Max Elixir, a card which can only ever accelerate 1 at a time. In this case, we can have the high roll of the double dip all-in-one item, really helping us chain attackers. Although this isn't necessarily reliable energy acceleration, as there is always a chance to whiff, having a high energy count and the fact that Miraidon thins the deck of a ton of Pokemon in the early game means we can lean into this item with a good amount of confidence. We already touched on Regieleki VMAX being best buds with Miraidon earlier, so let's get into a little bit more detail about this card and why it's so helpful. The Transistor ability buffs basic lightning Pokemon's damage by 30, and this is a stackable ability, so getting multiple of these in play is going to be a priority. The VMAX also has a very handy free retreat, giving this deck a really nice pivot, seeing as though our electricity generators can only target our benched Pokemon. The basic V is also a key component of our deck in a number of matchups. Firstly, there's Switching Bolt, dealing just 30 damage for 1 lightning energy and switching to the bench. Now this may seem a little weak at first, but remember this too can benefit from the VMAX's damage buff, so this attack can be used to poke multi-prizes into range for the following turn, or can be used to KO lower hit point basics in the early game, while safely protecting our energy on the bench, and we can even promote some awkward single prize basics into the active position, slowing down the opponent and creating a more awkward prize map. No Pokemon fulfills this role more so than Klefki, a new basic Pokemon from the Scarlet and Violet base set. Klefki's ability prevents basic Pokemon from using their own abilities when Klefki is in the active position. This is very handy at shutting down opponents' use of Genesect V in Mew decks, Comfey in Lost Engines, and even Miraidons in the mirror. Having this defensive approach in the deck is also very helpful, because we can't always rely on our speed. If electricity generators don't go our way, or if our opponent has many single prize Pokemon to deal with, bouncing between Regieleki and Klefki seems like the best option. Regieleki also has the Lightning Wall attack, which can also shine when looking at taking out 1 prize Pokemon. For 3 energy, we can deal 100 damage, and let's not forget that once again this can be buffed by having VMAXs on our bench, but we also reduce 100 damage from our opponent's attack next turn, turning Regieleki V into quite the tanky 2-prizer. Raikou V is another handy lightning basic worth playing, as it has a slightly cheaper attack cost with its lightning rondo, relieving some pressure on our generators and manual attachments. We also get the upside of occasional fleet-footed card draw here, which can come in clutch, seeing as though our draw engine is mostly in the form of supporters or the occasional Radiant Greninja usage. Now we start to see the deck coming together quite nicely here. Miraidon EX is going to help us get Regis in the opening stages, and we have the fallback of Raikou as a mini backup attacker, and we're going to use Radiant Greninja for a few additional draws, and Klefki to be thrown into the active position to slow down our opponents. Then we need to add in the mandatory ball search cards to get going in the game, and our most important item, 4 copies of Electricity Generator. With our deck so heavily focused around this new item card, we're going to want some guaranteed ways of finding them. That's where the new Arven supporter comes in. Not only does Arven provide item search, but we can also get a tool here. It's important to remember at this stage that with the release of Scarlet and Violet, tools are now going to be classified as their own category of card, making them much less searchable, so having Arven is even more helpful here. The deck doesn't naturally play a V-star Pokemon, so we can happily play Forest Sealstone for some added consistency. And we can also use Exp.Share to help us keep a healthy energy count throughout the game, even when our Pokemon are getting knocked out. Also, thanks to having Arven in the deck, we can reduce some card counts, knowing that we can use Arven to increase our chances of hitting them as and when we need them. This is going to be really important for some one-off items, and that's why we're going to shove in an escape rope and a switch cart. Both of these are going to help our overall pivot options and come in more handy when we can time them appropriately. We're also going to play some good old-fashioned Professor's Research for a deep dig into the deck, and the mandatory includes of Serena and Boss's Orders to allow us to target our opponent's bench Pokemon throughout the game for easier knockouts. With all that said and done, here is our skeleton deck list. We're keeping things pretty simple for now, and including a healthy amount of basic energy to give us favourable odds when using our generators. Stadiums should be an open and shut case here. The new Beach Court Stadium seems to be the best choice, as it helps enable defensive retreat plays when going first to hide behind Klefki, and enables offensive high roll plays when going second and looking to attack, thanks to the help of Electricity Generator getting so many energy into play. Also, whenever Beach Court happens to stick around in play coming back into our turn after we've suffered a KO, we can get Raikou V into the active for some cheeky additional draw. However, I'm also going to introduce a second stadium into this deck list, incorporating a couple copies of Path to the Peak. You'd think a deck so heavily focused on abilities would shudder at the thought of adding paths to their deck list, but as the ancient proverb goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And using Path to the Peak might well be our best way of beating what would otherwise be our most awkward matchup, Lugia. Lugia is looking quite different in the post-rotation format, seeing as though it loses so many of its special energy cards. It seems like the single strike build is the most popular, and Stonejourner is our new sworn enemy. It can easily uptrade into our entire deck thanks to weakness on just a one prize Pokemon. That means a traditional prize race is pretty much off the table for this matchup, so we're going to have to try and stifle their setup and get cheeky wins in another way. Good old Judge Path spin the wheel. Naturally, Path to the Peak isn't only handy at dealing with Lugia, it can also be disruptive against Gardevoir EX decks and Mew EX decks, and even the majority of Lost Boxes are using their own Radiant Greninja, so slowing all of these archetypes down is going to be massively beneficial. The final card I'm throwing into the deck list is Drapion V. Now, I've just talked about how we can attempt to disrupt a Mew, but they actually have a number of ways around Klefki and Path to the Peak already baked into their deck list, so I feel like securing that matchup is a lot easier just by having a Drapion added into the 60. Which leads us to the final list then. I believe this should be a pretty good balance of consistency and the necessary disruption to overcome some matchups. Speaking of which, let's talk through some of the most common expected matchups going into the format and how Miraidon will look to tackle them. Firstly, Lost Box, and we're actually playing a couple of really big cards for the matchup. Of course, Klefki can slow down the opponent's use of flower selecting, so this is going to be massive. So trying to do early hit and run tactics with your Regieleki V is going to be vital here. As the game progresses, using Lightning Wall to stifle some of their damage is also going to be really important. So ultimately, it's the Regieleki V show in this matchup. Lugia undoubtedly is still a little bit sus, but we do have Forest Seal Stone to help us get towards our Judge Path combos, so trying to do these in the opening stages will be very helpful, and at the very least, whenever you go first against them, they have to develop double Lugia, so there should be a number of multi-prize Pokemon sat around their board to trade into. We're playing a lot for the Mew VMAX matchup. We have Klefki we can put into the active position early, we have Path to the Peaks, which may surprise a number of Mew players, and of course we have Drapion V. This combination of cards should give us a really good time into Mew, especially because we still have that pop-off potential with generators in the opening stages, and as they go wide on their board, Raikou will be a real threat here. The Gardevoir matchup is another where the Regieleki V will shine. We can try and use Klefki to slow down the likes of their Celebrations Mew and Greninja a little bit, but ultimately Lightning Wall should be your best option, munching through their early Pokemon. Judge and Path are obviously great tools for you as well, so try and weave these together at the same time to put Gardevoir in uncomfortable positions. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion on Miraidon EX. It's clear to see that we can create a very consistent deck list with these sorts of cards, so I am still expecting it to be a real success once we get our hands on it in tournaments. As always, let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video tomorrow. Cheers.